Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith. Today we're going to take a look at a league called Sermon on the Mount. It's a 12-team league. It started the summer of 2021, I guess with the hope that maybe Trey Sermon would be really good, but we'll always remember Trey Sermon, I guess, if he flames out because of the name of this league and that it started the year he came out for the draft. And it was a late, I think midsummer league, I guess, is when this league started. It's 1 point PPR, 1.5 point PPR for the tight end, and then -3 for an interception. So it is a little bit weighted for the interception heavy. So that I mention it because it has to do with guys that take chances at quarterback that maybe you fade a little bit, but if they throw enough or run enough, it kind of offsets that. So, you know, you want to kind of stay away from the non-running quarterbacks in that kind of a format is what I've found. So one quarterback, one super flex, two running back, three receiver, one tight end, two flex for the 10 starters, 14 bench, four taxi, three IR. So everything's kind of streamlined here and not a lot of advantage by getting cute with the makeup of the roster. When I have a team like this, though, I do look to capitalize on the quarterback and value them the most. However, I will say that with this team, I drafted out of the one spot, and there, it's just my own tendencies. I have a little bit harder time building the team to the blueprint of let's win in 3 years, and more value seems to drop to me. I guess I get to that point in the second round at 212 and 3-1 and feel like with no first round reversal that I just got to take the valuable player. And so when that happens, I feel like I all of a sudden get these teams that start with one quarterback and two running backs, or one quarterback, one running back, one receiver, or there's this balance thing, and I have a lot of everything and nothing, and not anything that's great except outside of Pat Mahomes, who is just consistently my number one, my 101 in any of these multi-quarterback leagues, because I think his long range outlook, I guess I'm really confident. I say a lot of times that while I like probably Lamar Jackson maybe is my favorite quarterback because of the rushing upside and what he gives me on a week-to-week basis, he reminds me of a lot of the Donovan McNabb types and the Michael Vick types of quarterbacks that were rushing, and then their career arc just falls off. It just ends. Where Pat Mahomes feels like just kind of more of the Randall Cunningham type. He'll run when he needs to, and this dates way back, but he's just gonna hang around, and it wouldn't shock me if Pat Mahomes is playing quarterback at 36, 38 like Aaron Rodgers. Like that age kind of. He kind of reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers. Throw from any direction, any place. He's smart. His dad was a baseball player, so he's got a body that can last, and they know how to take care of their body. And I just feel like if I look up in 10 years, it wouldn't shock me if he was still playing quarterback at a decent level, where I'd be pretty happy with that pick. So, I guess that's always my goal, is when I spend first round draft capital, I'd like to have it on a guy that I look up 5 years from now and say, okay, yeah, that made some sense. It's not like who the hell is that? He's gone for 5 years. So that kind of always is the reason I take him. So my Mahomes shares are, if Mahomes ever drops to me, I pretty much am going to take him. I don't usually pay the premium to trade for him though. So the shares I have are the 101 picks I've made, or maybe the 102 picks I've made when somebody took McCaffrey a couple years ago. And this year maybe they take John Taylor at that point, and I feel like John Taylor again 4 years and probably done. Where I think Pat Mahomes, 10 years from now we might still see him at 36. So that's kind of my ammo with him. So looking at the quarterbacks, we have Mahomes, Hurts, Goff, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Ellinger, and Dalton, and I'm pretty happy with this group. I mean, I do recognize that Hurts is that kind of quarterback that I talked about. He's good while it lasts, but he's definitely somebody that will always have somebody in the background to replace. But that doesn't mean we just give him away either. It means that he can help us win. And so, he's a top 12 quarterback, top 10 quarterback when he's playing and running around and with that rushing upside. Not that Goff is anybody that I get real excited about, but he's one of the starting 32 quarterbacks, and he's 27, so he's not so old, and the likelihood of him playing this year in Detroit's high to me. And I do always like quarterbacks on bad football teams because they throw all the time. They just always throw. So I know I said -3 interceptions, but he's not an interception machine. He's a high percentage passer in a lot of cases. It's all this check down, short intermediate stuff that he throws. So do like him. Mac Jones is what he is. I mean, he's like the precision passer, and so we don't have to worry about him throwing tons of interceptions either. And then Trey Lance is kind of the rich man's version of Hurts, kind of, if we see him become what he should. And with Ellinger and Dalton, those guys are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Dalton could be that bridge quarterback, and Ellinger, if he gets a shot, maybe he's got some talent. I mean, the Colts did do two things that make me think that they're comfortable in Ellinger to at least a certain level. And one thing is they let Eason go and said, okay, you're no longer our project quarterback, you're gone. Ellinger, you're our number 2. They never did that with Eason the year before, so he was always the number 3. So they obviously saw something in Ellinger that they liked. They were willing to make him the number 2. The other thing is they did trade Carson Wentz, a bit ago, and haven't to date made a move yet to bring somebody in. Now I do believe they will. I absolutely believe they're going to bring somebody in, and there's a plan. But with it taking longer, a couple days to make that move, it tells me that they weren't sure if they had a deal done because it would have been announced right away. So therefore, whatever their plan is, they had to be comfortable enough with Ellinger that if it fizzled, that they might get by for a couple games with him, or he'd be the backup, or unless they all of a sudden bring in 3 quarterbacks or something. But I just don't see that happening with the time lapse that's happened. So. There might, by the time this video actually airs, it'll probably be pretty concrete as to what happens there. But we'll see how my prediction is as I think we're a week out before this will air. So just to give you a little bit of a time frame on how early I record these. But that's kind of the story on the quarterbacks and what we have. The running back room, really happy with it actually. It's very young and ready to really compete in most cases with Dobbins and Akers and James Robinson. And then Dante Foreman, Jamal Williams, and Edwards, Wilson, and Sargent, are all kind of at the back end, but just filler types. But remember, only 2 running backs needed. So, really excited about the Dobbins and Akers, youth, and then the market share that they get in the offenses that they're in, and so what they can do. In the receiver room, remember, only 3 receivers, and then we do have 2 flexes, so we're going to need to pull some things either out of those running backs or the receiver room too. That makes some sense here. And so we have Tony and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now with the incoming Amari Cooper, that probably devalues him a little bit, but he's still a big-bodied receiver that may help him, because maybe now some of the double coverage will roll to Cooper here too. But not sure what they're going to do in the draft. I mean, definitely could make a move in the draft as well, and so that could become less. Devontae Parker getting older, but he was the number 1 until Waddle hit the scene. So, he's still a target guy. And, like him, then Tim Patrick and Guyton and Van Jefferson. I mean, there's some abilities to piece together 3 there, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we can do in the draft as well. But, we really feel good about where those receivers either are or what we will have in the future. And then the reason I'm not panicked about the flex spots, with a 1.5 PPR tight ends, we have Knox, Irv Smith, and Cole Kmet, and then Bryant. And so remember, we only have two flex spots, and if I could start 3 of those guys, of those 4, on a given week, I wouldn't feel terrible about it with 1.5, because I think all of them could eclipse into the top 12. Which in that case, then it becomes very valuable to be using those as starters, because that means there's only 9 to go around. Now, looking at the draft picks, and this is what's important to realize where we're picking and why it's important for what we're trying to accomplish here. We have the 2, the 10, the 11, and then the second round, the 16, the 18, the 22nd, and the third round, the 28th, and the fourth round, the 40, 47. And I chart the first 30 picks that I make, and I just kind of pull from the chart. typically that gets me about to 35 or 38 because people are taking things that are outside of my top 30 earlier. But so the 40 to 47, we're going to kind of push those back. But then we have 7 picks in that top 30 that are actually in the top 30. And I would imagine because they're a little bit, late first and then mid seconds, that those seem to always be wide receiver spots. Now, doesn't mean that there's not going to be some running backs or quarterbacks that fall to those spots, and we'll surely take them if they're offered. But in my mind, those are usually receiver tight end spots. And I really think if the value falls at receiver like I expect, that we'll really build the receiver room and it'll become strong. Now, I won't be upset if I pull a couple quarterbacks and running backs out of this because that just makes it stronger. But let's just say that 6 receivers fall to those spots or 5 receivers fall to those spots. Only needing to start 3, and I feel like I have Tony as 1. We're going to get some. We're going to get some guys that can be in the flex, can be in the starting receiver spots. There's going to be quality there with the way this draft shapes up, and we don't even have to be real lucky. So pretty excited for the draft in this particular league, and excited to really come back after the draft and see how we did in this league. And so I'd be anxious to hear what your comments are. This is kind of a more balanced build than I actually like. Would love for quarterbacks to fall to me here, or the running backs to fall, because I do think the value is there. But just assuming it probably won't with the needs of the players that are around me, and there's going to be. But if 4 quarterbacks go before pick 10, for instance, that means that there's pretty good running backs and receivers there. Because if we just add let's just say 4 quarterbacks and 4 running backs go for 8. Then all of a sudden that means that there's only 1 receiver off the board. I mean, imagine what that becomes. So let's just dumb it down to only 3 running backs go. Now only 2 receivers are off the board. Let's say only 3 quarterbacks are off the board. Now it's only 3 receivers. Now we're only down to Drake London off the board at the receiver spot. And we have the 4th quarterback and the 4th running back to maneuver here at pick 10 and 11, or the 4th receiver. I have my choice of 4. Of the 4th of any particular one there, the 10 and the 11, and we really can balance out there. And I feel like there's a lot of dart throws at that point. So having the multiple picks at that point really will be valuable in how we can build a team and build value. So excited for that. Hope you hit the like button on this. Hit the subscribe to the channel and the notification bell so you get notified whenever one of these videos drops. I'd love to hear your comments. Love to hear if you think we can actually win with this team. Not sure if it wins this year. We're always looking to build in that 3rd year and try to make a run for it. This team actually did finish in 9th place, so only needs to really overcome 3 places to get into the playoffs. So I think it is a realistic goal to think that, hey, we can get into the 6th seed. Probably isn't going to get to the 1st or 2nd seed to get the bye, and that's okay, because we're just progressively trying to get the guys like Tony and Dobbins and Akers, who were all hurt last year, and get Lance and Mahomes and Hurts going here. So we have enough here to make a real run, and so we might be a year away from being able to be a top seed and making a significant run with the bye. But would like to get to the playoffs with this team and see how we do, and maybe we get hot at the right time and go get a win and cash some money in this league in year 2, which would be a really quick turnaround. But the balance build does help us do that. So feel good about where we're going, especially with the running back room being so young with Dobbins and Akers. So love to hear your comments. Maybe you'll tell me, hey, this team is terrible and they'll never win. And so I've heard that before, and actually I forget what this board said to me, but I think they were all frustrated with kind of the way I drafted and who we were picking and where we were picking. But it'll be exciting to see how this team comes out. So welcome your thoughts, and look forward to coming back to you tomorrow with another team preview. Thank you for joining the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith.